Hello guys, and here I'm going to be showing you how I go about editing my astrophotography images and my current kind of workflow that I have going on. So I use Pixinsight and Photoshop, as well as Blur Exterminator, Star Exterminator, so a couple of paid plugins here. And we're going to open up, first of all, our image. So this is our stacked image from Deep Sky Stacker. We'll bring it into here and we'll open up our screen transfer and apply a screen stretch. And immediately we can see we have this green background, but you can see the detail that we've got inside the nebulae there. Now this is only 1 hour's worth of integration, so it's not the best data that we're starting with here, but we can still get something nice out of it. So let's just apply this dynamic crop to begin with. And then the next thing we will do is go down to dynamic background extraction. So next in our tool set there, I'm going to change the default sample size to 10. That'll generate a sample of the background that it's going to use as a reference. Make sure we're not covering any stars or any nebulosity there. And then in correction, we go to subtraction and discard the background model because we don't need it. It's just going to strip out a plain green background. So we go ahead and hit the button there, little green check mark, and it will apply that, and it will pull out the background, get rid of it, and what we're left with then is this. So we'll just move our original one out of the way, and we close dynamic background, and we apply the screen stretch to this. Now you can see when it's green down the side there, it means screen stretch is on, it's applied, and then that takes it off, okay? So there's our screen stretched background. Now the next thing that I want to do is go to Blur Exterminator, and we will choose to correct only. And we'll drag that across onto here, and that will just help remove some blur around the edges of stars. It's not super visible initially, but it does make a difference. So then we will run Blur Exterminator again later to sharpen non-stellar objects, but we won't do that right now, because the next thing we're going to do is go to Star Exterminator. I want to strip out all of the stars so they're their own image. So we'll generate a star image and we'll process that. And now what that will do is it will strip out all of the stars, and it will give us one image which has only the background and nebulae. And we'll have another image which has a black background with the stars. So here we go. That's both of those. So you can see both of these at the moment have a screen stretch applied to them. Okay. Now what I want to do is make this screen stretch permanent. So next thing, tool list is slightly out of sync there. We should open up the histogram transfer. So what we do is we go to our screen transfer function. So what we have viewed here, I want to transfer it to there. So I click on that triangle, drag it across, then I drag that across to the image, and that will make that permanent. Okay, ignore what you're seeing there. That just means that it's being applied for a second time. We can actually turn off the screen stretch, but we'll do that shortly. So we want to do the same here. Okay, we've got our screen stretch applied to this. We're going to drag that across to here, and then we want to apply that to this. Okay, so now those are permanent. Now we can turn off our screen stretch, and we can remove those, turn off the screen stretch for this one as well. And now we're left with this. Okay, don't worry that this star is a little bit square, and it's going to blend in later on when we bring these things into Photoshop. Now you can see here we've also got these hot pixels that have been tracking across our image. I wasn't dithering when I took this, but again, we can get rid of those in Photoshop later, especially as we have these as two separate layers. That's another useful thing, is we can make edits to here and we can make edits to there. I've also got some of this weird stripe going on. I think there was some satellites flying through and things, and a Deep Sky Stacker for some reason didn't remove them. But again, we'll be able to clean all of this up in post in Photoshop. I also got these marks here, here, and here. I think I cooled my CCD too quickly. I ended up with dew and ice forming on it, but not a problem. We'll get rid of those later as well. Okay, so now I'm going to open up my curves transformation, and we'll go to the RGB to begin with, and we'll open up a preview, and we'll begin applying a stretch to this. Mostly I want to darken off some of that background, bring out a little bit of the detail there, but I'm not going to do too much stretching here in Pixinsight. I'm going to do most of the stretching actually later on in Photoshop. All I want to do here is just kind of get approximately to where I want to be with this image. Make sure I'm not blowing out any of the details, and maybe increase the saturation just a tad to bring out some more of the red. But I'm not going to do too much in here. That is enough actually of a stretch. So I'm just going to apply this. Now you can see if we applied another stretch with the same parameters, this is what we'd be left with. Okay, because that's our preview, but we'll close the preview and we go back to here. So this now has been applied to this image. I'm going to save this now as nebulae layer 1. Okay, so this will be nebulae layer 1. We'll save this as a TIFF file. Okay, done. Actually, I should save it as a 16-bit TIFF file, sorry, because Photoshop doesn't like the 32 bits. So we'll save this as a 16-bit. Because anyway, even if we bring it, when we bring it into Photoshop, we'll be changing it to a 16-bit anyway. So we'll go ahead and replace that. And it'll be a 16-bit, okay. So now that's done. Now if we turn on preview again, you can see that we've got this darker option here as well, which is kind of a bit more contrasty. So I'm going to actually go ahead and apply that as well, but not right now. There's a step I missed out here, hold on. On here I want to now apply Blur Exterminator again. Open up the preview. Now in this time I want to sharpen non-stellar objects. I want to increase the amount that we're doing of that. So this will just sharpen up these non-stellar objects there. So if I turn that off, you can see this is a little bit blurry, but if I sharpen this, it just makes those nebulae pop. Now it might be a little bit too much. We don't want to go overboard on this, just enough just to make that nebulae pop a little bit more and be a little bit more defined in detail. So we choose how much we want to do this. Okay, I think that's enough, and we'll apply that. And once that's done, we can close Blur Exterminator, close our real-time preview here. Now I just want to save this again. This is our sharpened one. Save it as layer 1. TIFF, replace. Oops, should be yes. (16-bit). Okay. Done. All right. So that now has been done. Now, if I open up my preview there, you can see this is what happens if we apply this curve again. So I'm actually going to go ahead and do that. I'm going to save then as layer 2. So we go to apply. I'm not going to do another one. That's a little bit too aggressive. So I'm just going to save this in here as layer 2. Okay, so I'm basically done now with that layer. Now we'll go over to our stars layer. And what I would like to do here is, again, go to Blur Exterminator. I might just sharpen up some of these stars a little. So correct only. Subtle, but it will help sharpen up the stars. Okay, so that's now done. And then we're going to do a color calibration. I'm going to make a preview, which I drag over the white star here. Whoops, create a new preview. Oh yeah, sorry, we're in real-time preview there. To make it on here. So that's our white reference, and then we'll make another one, which will be our black reference. Okay, so our white reference, preview 1, black reference, preview 2. Okay, perform that. Now it's just calibrated our colors. We can delete those previews. Then our curves transfer. We can edit a little bit the color that you want these stars to be. So if you would like your stars to be slightly more red, if you like them to be slightly more blue, slightly more green, it's up to you. So you can edit that in here. But we also get control over this later again in Photoshop, so don't worry too much about doing it in here, okay? Basically, we're done now with Pixinsight, and we're going to save this as our star map. So that's the stars layer. Okay. All right, so we're done here in Pixinsight. Now we'll go over into Photoshop, and we go to scripts, load files into stack. We'll choose those 3 files that we just exported from Pixinsight, and it's going to load those individually into separate layers here. So you can see now we've got all 3 of those here in Pixinsight, all right? And then I'm going to create groups for these. So this will be our stars. Create another group, which is nebulae 1. And a final one, which is nebula 2. Okay? So each one of those now is in its own separate folder, and we're going to start off with nebulae 2, and I'm going to go to adjust. We're going to add curves to this, and we're going to add levels to this, and we're going to add a hue and saturation to that, and then we'll do the same in here. I want hue, saturation, curves, and levels. In the stars layer, I'm just going to need hue and saturation. Okay, so we'll start off with the stars layer. We can adjust here the saturation and the hue. So this is where you can kind of change how bright or what color kind of getting from these stars. So I'm going to shift that up towards this end here. So slightly on the blue end of the spectrum, okay? Now I did mention that we're going to get rid of these star trails, so we're going to do that now. Okay, so the way we're going to do that is I'm going to use the clone tool, the clone brush. So that's the clone brush is here. Okay, we make sure we select the star layer. Press down Option to select a piece of black sky, and then we draw over them. So any kind of hot pixels or anything that's left here, we can get rid using this tool. Okay, so it can take a little bit of time, but we can eliminate a lot of this. So I'm just going to go around, get rid of all of this, and I'll see you in a moment. Up all those artifacts now. Go back over to my hue saturation. I'm still not quite happy with that. It's kind of a little bit too green. And decrease the saturation a bit. Yeah, okay. So now I'm done with this layer for now. Now, you can spend a lot more time on adjusting things, making fine tuning. This is just getting the basics all set up. So we'll turn off that stars layer. Now I'll go to our nebulosity layer here. So again, our hue and saturation we can adjust here. So how much saturation you've got. I'm going to pull up the saturation a bit. Now you don't want to go too much, start to blow things out. Saturation is delicate, just to get just the right amount. I just decrease some darkness a little bit. Now on our curves here, we can pull out some more detail. We can darken off some other areas. So this one can be slightly lighter in some ways, because remember we got that other layer where we kind of increased the contrast a lot. Okay, so I'm good with this for now. Now we'll go to our levels. We can pull the red in a little, green a little, just to darken off that background. Okay. Now you can see here we've also got these kind of trails. I think those were satellites and things that kept on going through the image that Deep Sky Stacker for whatever reason hasn't removed. So we're going to use the same technique. We're going to use that clone tool brush to get rid of these. So make sure we're selected on that layer. I'm going to make the brush bigger this time, and just kind of generally wash these out so we can blend them in, get rid of them. Okay, we also we got a few of those hot pixels also showing up on this layer. Get rid of those, and then we'll come down here. Get rid of these trails. I've got these areas here which were, as I said earlier, they were kind of ice or dew that formed on the CCD because I cooled it maybe a little quicker than I should, so I'll just get rid of that. And also here. Can blend that in, get rid of that. So you see here there's a few and more of those hot pixel trails. Get rid of some of that. So this clone brush tool, you can see, is really useful for cleaning up artifacts that you've got on your image and just blending things in, getting rid of hot pixels and various other errors. But you could imagine trying to do this with the stars on top of there, it'd be really tricky and you'd be smudging all of your stars. So by stripping that layer of stars out, it really makes a difference. So now you can see this is cleaned up. It looks a whole lot better than what it did before. Okay. Now I've got RC Astro filters here, so I'm going to run here noise exterminator, and this can help us just to denoise so if we run that around there, and there we go. Now you see it's removed a lot of the noise from the image, and we've got a much smoother kind of nebulae there. Now I'm going to run another filter, which will be sharp, and we'll go to unsharp mask. We'll sharpen things up. Okay, so now I'm pretty much done with this layer for now. Yeah, this is a very quick edit, but just kind of showing you what's possible. Okay, so now here on this nebula, you're going to go through a similar process. So I'll just see you in a few moments when I'm done with this. The heel brush on there, and now we're going to do the same thing. We'll run the noise exterminator just to smooth things out a little bit. And okay, so we're done now with our 3 different layers here, and now we're on to combining them. The groups now, so the stars is on the top, and I've actually got the nebulae layers then here. So now one thing you have to do is change each of these groups, the blending mode, to screen. Okay, so make sure each one of these is selected as screen. So now you can see it's overlaying them on top of each other. So if we take away the last layer there, yeah, so you can see the differences now that these make. So combining the 3 layers together really does make a difference. Now I don't want to kind of blow out this detail a little bit too much there, so what you can do is actually then begin to edit the opacity of these different layers to decide how much of it is actually showing. So that's without it, and that's with it, but with 67% opacity. If I go to 100% opacity, you see it gets very bright here. It's a little bit too bright, so we can dial that back a bit. Okay, and then you can actually go in then to individual things, and we can begin to adjust levels again if you want to darken things or bring out more details wherever. You can begin to do that from going back in and playing around with those. So now it's just a matter of just playing around with, you know, what you think looks nice, yeah, what looks good. And when we're done with the whole thing, you can put all these down into one layer. So that's Shift, Option, Command, and E on a Mac that I'm on. So it creates a new layer, which is basically the combination of what we just did there. And now on this one layer, we can put this into a group, which we'll call this final layer. We can put that into there. So now we can work on this, but we can still always go back to our original. Yeah, so it's kind of non-destructive. So we can keep this, we can go back and play around with that. But we've got this here now, which we can also now edit. So inside of here, we can add another adjustment layer. So if I want to go for curves, now I can just do a final edit to get the exact kind of colors and contrasts that I want. So I can bring out more of that green dust, or I can dial it back a little bit, different levels. See, this particular one here brings out this nebulosity or not, but you've got to be careful not to blow things out, see? And then you start generating noise, so you don't want to be too aggressive with this. You want enough just to bring out some of the maybe finer details. Okay, and then maybe I will add a hue saturation to this. So we'll up our saturation a little bit. Just the hue slightly. So there's basically now our final image. So that's my workflow process, and this isn't bad considering that we only had like maybe 30, 35, 45 minutes of imaging, no guiding on this target. So that's my basic workflow process. I hope you found this tutorial useful, and I'm always interested to hear people's comments and advice on how I can improve things as well. So thanks for tuning in.